Welcome back to NCHS Live. I'm Isaiah Rosner, and I'm joined by fellow football analyst Avi Sarkar. Avi, I'm loving the background there. That's a great one for the topic today.
That's my guy. It's our
Yeah.
quarterback.
Starting quarterback Zaid Vestal. Of course, last game, not the best game for the Panthers. After starting 4-0, they fell to the Carmel Greyhounds, to the Center Grove Trojans, 47-0. Of course, Center Grove is the number one team in the state, so that makes it not quite as bad as it sounds. Now, I was not at the game, so I've got to ask Avi a lot of questions about what went on there. So, Avi, feel free to say whatever, and we can break down this loss and go on to talking about next week's big game at Panther Stadium. So, first of all, just overall, 47-0, pretty clearly nothing really went right for the Panthers. What was going so wrong for North Central in this game?
It's that bad man. His name is Carson Steele, man. He was not there last year when North Central faced Center Grove at North Central because he was out with something. I don't remember what it is. If I do, I won't say it because we're not going to go that far. Anyways, so he was not there last year, and that's how North Central was able to beat them without that bad man, Carson Steele. And now North Central just couldn't find an answer to that bad man, Carson Steele. He had a monstrous game. He had 175 yards on 21 carries. In each of his yards, he averaged 8.3 yards, and he had 3 touchdowns. And then during that game, he became the leading touchdown scorer for rushing for Center Grove, and then he became the leading rusher for Center Grove history. So that's a bad man, and they couldn't stop him.
So absolutely, running back Carson Steele just dominating the Panthers on the ground game. As for the Panthers' offense, though, they had found ways in most of the games to get their offense going. I think the one exception may have been the game against Warren Central, but for the most part, their offense had at least consistently moved the ball and gotten some points on the board with the combination of running and passing. So why could they not get that going here in this one?
There were 2 guys. Number 91, I believe, is Austin. I don't remember his last name. It was
Okay.
Austin.
Austin Green?
Austin who?
Austin Green?
Is he number 91?
91 is Caden Curry.
91, sorry, yes. 91 is Kane Curry. 94 is Austin. I'll just say Austin because I can't think of his last name.
Austin Booker is who you're looking for.
Austin Booker. That's who he is. Those 2 guys made Zayd's life very, very miserable. And the offense could not get anything. It was basically, this is how the offense played out in 2 ways. One, it was just nothing. They couldn't get one on first down, second down, or third down. So it'd be 3 and out. And then the other one was they'd get a first down or they'd get something going, and then they'd just lose all life. So, and the running game was just not a factor because those 2 guys, Caden Curry and Austin Booker, were just all over the place for Center Grove.
So yeah, playing at Center Grove, the toughest game you can play in the state of Indiana. However, of course, hindsight's 2020. But I just want to ask you, what do you think they could have done on either side of the ball to have somewhat of a better game? What should they have done to try to make it at least a more close score in the end?
I feel like they should have analyzed the defense more because they run a wing T offense, which is basically rush, like run heavy. And so I looked up how to defeat the wing T offense, which is a 4-2-5 defense. I have no clue what that is, but that's the best way. And I guess Jimmy Pappas didn't have an answer for that. And so they couldn't do anything. And offensively, if they would have had Zayd Vestal run more, I think they would have had a shot. But again, it's 2020. You just don't know.
Absolutely. So moving on to a more positive note, next week, it seems like every game we're saying this is a big game, because last time they were the number 3 team heading to the number 1 team. This time it will be the number 8 team, the Carmel Greyhounds, the number 1 rival of the North Central, of all of North Central in general. The number 1 rival, Carmel, will be playing North Central at Panther Stadium. Panthers being ranked number 5 in the state after their loss last week. Panthers are 4-1. Carmel is 3-2. Avi, what do you want to see in that game?
I want to see a rivalry like last year and the year before that, our sophomore and our junior. Those were two heck of a games, and I think this one will be too because they will be looking for some revenge after the upset in which some of their fans got a little squirmish about us beating them on their home floor during their homecoming. So we're gonna try to get a win at our place because 2 years ago we did not get that. But I expect this game to be like any rivalry game, which is both sides will hate each other's guts, and only one winner.
So adding on to that, North Central is probably the most pass-heavy team in the mix. Almost every team, I mean, in general, in high school football, is more of a running game. But North Central, I think, passes over 50% of the time. I have to check that to be sure. But on the other hand, Carmel, they are also a pretty heavy passing team. Maybe not quite as much as the Panthers, but they have had 104 passing attempts in their 5 games this season, along with 162 rushing attempts. So I would say the biggest thing they need to really worry about slowing down would be that passing game. Zachary Osborne, the junior quarterback for Carmel, has 103 passing attempts for 590 yards and 6 touchdowns, but he does have 5 interceptions this season. So he's not necessarily a dominant threat, but he's definitely one that they love to use, just using that passing game in general, like throwing to a multitude of receivers. Really, maybe I shouldn't say that because 17 of the 49 receptions have gone to Colton Parker. He's definitely the number one threat in the passing game, but I would say really, if you can stop them from being able to throw the ball and turn them into just a running team, that could be a really huge help to North Central.
And also Colton Parker, he's not Carson Steele, but he's pretty good for a running back himself. Find his team stats. He's pretty good because I remember we were talking about him last year, and he's pretty dominant of a guy. So he averages. Actually, there are other good running backs. Actually, their quarterback Osborne. He's a good runner too, so they gotta worry about that. But it looks like there are some other good running backs, but I remember Colton Parker. He averages about 12.9 yards a carry. So I mean that goes pretty far. In my book.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to their defense, as far as big plays are concerned, Carmel is pretty good compared to the average team. They have 11 sacks this season, well over the state average, along with 3 interceptions, which is just around average. They're a pretty good big play defense in general. As for their points allowed, it's really been dependent on who they've been playing. Plainfield, we're going to try to get rid of that.
They crushed Plainfield. It was 31-6. So
Yeah, for sure. Could you hear that commercial, Avi?
No, I did not.
You didn't hear that? Okay, never mind. I shouldn't have said anything. I got a McDonald's spicy chicken nuggets commercial, so yeah. But anyway, yeah, as you were saying, Plainfield, they allowed just 6 points, and then that was their week 1 game. Then week 2, they went to Cathedral, or actually played at home against Cathedral, and allowed 44 points. Week after that, played, of course, the formidable Center Grove, and allowed 42. I guess looking at these games, their defense has not been that good because they allowed 44 against Pike in a 45-44 victory, and then 34 last week in an away game against Lawrence North. They did win that one too, 36-34. So really, it's their offense that's been getting business taken care of in their wins so far this season. So if Panthers can just slow that down, that's really the biggest key to the game. I think the offense will come at least fairly naturally for North Central. They just really need to be able to slow down the Carmel offense. Anything else from you, Avi?
Because I'm looking at Carmel and the Pike and Morrison. They're both 3-2, so it's a battle of that 3-2, 4-1 mix. But this year the mix is more competitive than ever. We can say Center Grove's the prohibitive favorite, which they are, but there are other teams looking for that number 1 spot too.
Yeah. One final point I'd like to make. Another question for you, Avi. In that Center Grove game, to go back to that, Did they try to do much with Theron Johnson on offense? Because he's been probably the best offensive player for the Panthers so far. So what kind of plays did they run for him?
He did not. He played like one. He played only in the first quarter. But what people don't know is he got his shoulder banged up in that Lawrence North game. So he was on in like the IR slash he can kind of play, but it was basically offensively it's first quarter, and then after that it was pure defense because they wanted him to rest that shoulder up, which is very vital for the cornerback wide receiver position. So let's see if I think Darren will be healed up, but we'll see how he can do against this Carmel team.
Yeah, that would do. That definitely a big damper to the offense to not be able to have their biggest weapon out there. So that could have contributed to the zero they put up on the scoreboard. Well, that will do it for this episode. Thanks for joining me, all of you. Thank you, everyone, for watching today's episode of NCHS Live. And I'm excited for this week's game. It will be a 7 p.m. kickoff at North Central. Of course, limited attendance if you can't be there. I believe there's a JEL stream you can watch, and then, of course, you can listen to it on 89.3 WJEL. Got to put that in there, of course. But thank you for listening, everyone, and I'll see you next time.